All right, thanks everybody for coming out tonight. Welcome to the Feral Howl performance. We're going to get a chance to howl soon with our first performance. Okay, so I want to start by acknowledging that the ground we're standing on is Tewa land that was stolen by the U.S. government. Speaking of the government, today is the anniversary of that guy's inauguration. We've survived 365 days. Can you believe we have survived that long? And we apparently have more to go. And tomorrow is the anniversary of the Women's March, that amazing surge of resistance against our colonialist and misogynist and many other ists government. And tomorrow is another Women's March happening all over the country. Some happen today. Tomorrow is the Santa Fe's March at the Roundhouse at noon. So go with your pussy hats. Today is also Art Action Day, so designated by the Federation, which is a coalition of New York artists, including Lauren Anderson, who curated the playlist we were playing earlier. Their motto is, "Art is essential to democracy." This event tonight is part of that initiative, the nationwide thing. The Federation writes, "We believe in the need to heighten our sense of our shared humanity, to work for equality and justice, and to communicate visions of what our world could be. We believe in engaging audiences to secure a more democratic future. The arts must serve as a catalyst for achieving these goals." Our participants come from organizations large and small, in towns and cities all across the country, from Salt Lake City, Utah, and Louisville, Kentucky, to Santa Fe, New Mexico. That's us. Part of their official statement. In Ann Arbor, Michigan. We believe that art can bring us together so we can envision a more inclusive, compassionate, and joyful world for ourselves today and tomorrow. As James Baldwin said, the precise role of the artist is to make the world a more human dwelling place. And as Leslie Feinberg said, author of Stone Butch Blues, "I'm not saying we'll live to see some sort of paradise, but just fighting for change makes you stronger."
Hell yeah.
Yeah. That's why we created this stuff here. This is the work of myself and my two collaborators, Patti Levey and Lauren Ayer.
Yay!
Lauren's sick tonight, so she has bronchitis, so she couldn't make it. But Patti is here somewhere.
Right there.
All right, yeah, good. Because we created this show together too. We curated the show because we needed to fight for change through art, just to keep ourselves strong and relatively sane. After we elected a piñata for president. And we found 9 feminist artists who are doing amazing work that was aligned with ours. Work that expresses a feral howl of rage and calls forth the transformative power of art.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
So tonight we are coming together to take the feral howl into the 4th dimension, the dimension of movement and performance and time. We have performance art, spoken word, and artist talks by 5 amazing artists who are part of our show, plus me. First up, we have Ahjo Sipowicz. Ahjo's art, which is in the front room and very much central to the show. They were the first artists that we invited, actually. Ahjo's art is directly inspired by their embodied nature practice. This performance comes from their 3-year conversation with a particular tree, where the spirit of the Slavic Baba Yaga reveals itself. Ahjo has been doing their best to follow Baba's instructions to project Baba out, rather than be devoured by Baba in depression. So here is an offering of sound and prayer from our Baba Yaga, and it might even be a bit of a feral howl. Please welcome Ahjo.
Are you tasting it? This moment. Taste it. This moment has a door. While underground waters rush, roots sink, limbs rise, while the world and sky breathe us. When we walk, the whole world spins beneath our feet. Great distances able to be traveled here in this stillness. Tall, rooting tree. Standing next to flowing river. This fear and shame were taught. This cradled urge inside, not perverse, but our verse. An aid to our memory and pleasure, a call to rise, not hide, to create, not die, and yet still we must die, to be born, rest, to create, and sink, to rise. Sink, rise, sink, rise, enter, rise, sink, rise, sink, rise, enter, fall. Do be whole. Become. Do be whole. Become. Behold, we are spirit, flowing, soul, rooting, body ignited, not divided, all elements wedded. Holiness through this wild wholeness. Ride. Ride, ride, ride your war horse, ride your war horse. Snake honored inside. Tall, thick, green, lush forest. Standing next to a live, vibrant, shimmering river. This, a poem, a prayer for all of us. From our grandmothers, babushkas, Baba Yaga, arch-crone passageway through mischievousness, bone-eater shapeshifter, witch, the guardian to the underworld, that place from which all new life and stories are birthed from. Do you remember we used to call them the bearded goddess, the great serpent and bird goddesses? All still living here in our cells, memories. Now, there's an opportunity. Rather than being eaten by our Baba Yaga, which can be a nourishing experience in its own way, and I'm sure many of you have spent time in her belly. But now, the request is to be in our own belly body through sensation and become the earth body we are. Now, listen. Enter into your own. You back there too. Enter into your own blood and bones. Listen. Can you hear the sound of giant boulders tumbling, fires raging, lava oozing, while the hooves of wild horses strike the ground, and birds screech calls of warning, while the wolves let the sounds out. Taste it. Smell how ripe we are. This is us. This is our earth body here. Here. Not somewhere else. Here. Take time every day to smell yourself through sound. Remember who you are.
Oh my god, so fucking awesome. Thank you, Ahjo. That's so good. I needed that. I'm wanting to Feral Howl this whole time. Okay, next up we have Rosemary Meza-DesPlas, who is based in Farmington. She's a Latina artist who is known for exploring gender, sexuality, and identity issues through hand-sewn human hair drawings, watercolors, and on-site drawing installations. She's also a writer and spoken word performer. Her solo show, Nevertheless, She Persisted, opens at the Durango Arts Center on February 2nd. A closing reception for the exhibition with a spoken word performance by Rosemary will be held March 2nd. Please welcome Rosemary Meza-DesPlas.
So thank you to the Furies, to Kristin and Lauren and Patti for inviting me to be part of the programming this evening. I appreciate it. So this first poem is called A Head and a Leg Makes a Good Woman. We had breasts like eyes, tips fit to be tied, and obnoxious nappy nipples. We were these women, eating up whole men in bars, spitting foreskin through our teeth, burping salt off our lips. We had vaginas lit up like the Holland Tunnel, and one dippy uterus, flipping Bobby's burgers, while some transportation tubes did some too tall talking. We were these women, somewhere below the breast, above the ass, above the rest. A head and leg makes good woman. Gives a good blowjob, keeps Bob down. We had bone-breaking brains and farting blue chip patties. Our smothered ideas slapped you inside, while pink, uncooked sausage thoughts unraveled. We were these women, they say, the ones before you, breast hung in shame. Could have been a good woman. These women. This next poem is called The Overpricing of Cow Manure, and it's from a book of poetry that I did called The Laughter Between My Legs. If cow manure is $1.89 per 40 pounds, what's the cost of 40 years of his shit? Taking into account the cost of living, the supply versus demand factor, and the buying power of today's dollar. Then there's the days he shits more. Days he's drinking Budweiser. There's crap on her face making her wince twice. He's selling it, she's buying it, ridiculously overpriced. Pounds times days times weeks times months times years. Times. Whew. Wipes her brow. Sniffs his foul. Next to her. Watching commercials. Drinking Budweiser. Full toilet tonight of $1.89. Long-term woman thinks. So this next poem is particularly appropriate for tonight. It's a poem I wrote after January 20th, 2017. And it's called Woman Interrupted. 1,000 men in cheap toupees wave blue dresses, rippling and undulating with patriotism, stained and soiled with falsehoods. Lock her up! Lock her up! Lock her up! They chant boisterously. One blonde woman in sensible shoes stands at a podium. Lips twitching from the strain. Shoulders slumped. Knees buckling. Under red, white, and blue weight. Senator, secretary, sweaty salvation. Birthing encumbrances. She carries the burden of all women. 500,000 women in white pantsuits swallow up concrete space. Labia pink knitted hats nod and wink. Clever slogans bob up and down like buoys. Marching clips, screaming bubbles, singing snatches, snake fluidly through city streets. 1,000 brown women in miniskirts look to the ceiling. You scramble up the blonde hair rungs of a deteriorating DC ladder. Heaving cleavages squashed against glass. Red tape lipstick smeared across transparency. One middle-aged woman in a black pantsuit flashes dejected pearly whites. 500,000 deferred dreams tumble from her shoulders into putrid puddles of complacency. Suicidal bravado slices through cold blue air silently. Woman, rupture. Woman, interrupted. So I'm very glad to be part of the program this evening. This is my last poem, and I am doing a performance in Durango, Colorado on March the 2nd, which is a larger performance with more costumes, changes, and stuff. Anyway, I was once told that I don't write anything happy or upbeat. So one summer when I was in my studio, I decided to write a happy poem. And it's titled, I'm Happy. The poem is really about reconciling identity, stereotypes. So it's really more than just my happy poem, but it is happy. So here it is. I'm happy and I know it. Let me clap my fucking hands. I'm happy and I know it. Clap with me, baby. Clap with me. I'm not the angry poet choking on dead words. I'm not constipated with middle-aged frustration. I'm not the furious, one-eyed feminist slam dancing by myself. I'm not the white-ass Latina who farts on the world. I'm not the bitter Mexican-American with a hyphen up my ass. I'm happy and I know something. I'm happy and I know something. Fucking am. Clap with me, baby. Clap with me. The angry wife got laid. The girly girl got beer. The brown bitch got a job. The black and blue cunt grew balls. The little woman got the shits. I'm happy and I know it's something. I'm fucking am. I'm happy and I know something. Clap with me, baby. Clap with me.
Well done. I'm Kristin Barendsen.
Yeah.
I'm a writer and sometimes photographer, and now a curator. This show. And so the Furies, we made this work, as you can tell, and curated the show together. We've been blown away by the response. Thank you for showing up tonight, and for the attendance at the opening was amazing. And I'm just going to read a piece that I wrote after the 2016 election. And it was published almost a year ago exactly, on January 25th. It's called The Trump Pinata. On election night, I had 10 friends in my living room, champagne chilling in the fridge, a Trump pinata from a Mexican candy store waiting on the back porch. The pinata was cartoonish but recognizable, with an oversized blonde head that made it look like a 4-year-old boy dressed in a blue suit and red tie. We cut a slit in the back of its head with a serrated knife, pulled out its newspaper brains, replaced them with Mars fun-sized chocolates left over from Halloween. My ex-girlfriend tried to wedge a square of chocolate into its crotch, saying, "Take that, pussy grabber with tiny hands, who wants to grab all the money, all the power, all the land for yourself and your rich white male cronies. We'll smash you tonight in victory." She couldn't get the chocolate in, though. Its crotch was too dense. The piñata had a metal hook coming out of the top of its head. We looped rope through the hook and hung the body from a beam above my porch. Above us, a half moon rose. Back inside, the TV started saying things it wasn't supposed to. When the flesh version of the piñata won Ohio, the party hubbub became a stream of, what the fuck? And fucking shit. Then the flesh version won North Carolina. Florida. With each wrong state he won, I added more red wine to my stomach acid. Pennsylvania? My back muscles seized, began to shake the way they do where trying to relax only makes them shake more. When someone shoved a phone in my face with a graphic that had flipped his chances of winning from 15% to 95%, I curled my body into a loose fist on the living room floor and sobbed. Friends came with their arms around me. Only my ex had ever seen me cry. I'm not a crier. I couldn't stop. At first, we were too depressed to beat the piñata. We were ourselves the broken piñatas. Newspaper insides coming apart on the living room floor. But as the pundit stuttered, trying to make it make sense, our despair flipped to rage. Rage against a future we didn't consent to, that we had no idea how to live within. 3 of us went outside and beat the living fuck out of that thing. Wailed on it with the crepe-papered stick it came with. When the rope broke, we hung it again. There's somebody laughing back there who was part of this experience. When the rope broke a second time, we struck the man-boy shape on the ground, committing symbolic violence for all the real violence that the new administration intends to commit against brown bodies, immigrant bodies, women's bodies, queer bodies, animal bodies, the rivers, the bees, the sky. The blonde head releasing from the body, the hair becoming a true-to-life hairpiece waving. Suit jacket ripped off, newspapers spilling out. My ex impaled the head on a stick and held it up in victory, grinning without smiling. Candy everywhere among the leaves. The next morning, my first day in our shared hallucinatory reality, sobbing again. I cleaned up the spilled red wine and popcorn, but I couldn't bring myself to clean up the piñata. I left it where it lay, head upside down beside the body. It demonstrated how I felt. Its body, my body. A couple weeks later, friends who'd been there on election night said, "Let's make art with the piñata." It was late November, but my 100-pound friend shed her clothes, lay down naked on the cold concrete among the body parts and stuffing and candy and leaves. Across her breasts, across her pussy, we placed red crime scene tape reading 1 billion rising and rape-free zone. I took the photos from a chair above. We weren't completely sure in our scenario who had committed what crime. The ramifications are still unfolding. She really looks dead. Her body, my body, our body. Last night, after hearing about a contender for agriculture secretary whose mission in life is to extirpate wolves, a creature I love to an irrational level, I slept on the living room floor because it felt more real, more congruent, to be in some amount of physical pain, to have my body laid out on that hard surface. Sometimes I wake with a plunging sensation, like I'm on a bus being driven off a bridge, trapped inside metal and glass with all the other passengers about to hit the water. Sometimes I wake with a hurtling sensation, like I'm being propelled full speed into a place I cannot see. It's not just me. Here in the liberal bubble of Santa Fe, everyone's walking around like we're in a zombie apocalypse. We can't sleep, can't digest food, can't stop thinking about how this happened, whom we could blame, what Hail Mary tactic we can turn to next. Our blood flows with anger, even as the dull drain of powerlessness in our bellies empties our life force. Our future is in hands not our own, small hands that will soon have a chokehold round the world. The Trump administration apparently does not intend to recognize brown bodies, queer bodies, Muslim bodies, or even liberal white straight bodies as part of the body of America. Like an autoimmune disorder, the control center of America is planning an overt and covert war against the majority of Americans. The white blood cells, and I do mean white, are poised to attack and undermine us as foreign agents. The result is a psychic violence, a physical trauma to our individual bodies and the collective body of society. And it's not just human bodies. The administration plans to intensify the onslaught against the body of the mother we all live within. The poisoning of her river blood, the suffocation of her forest lungs, the penetration and fracking of her rock and magma core, the laying down of black snake upon black snake, the unchecked hunting of wolves and bears, the fattening of cattle with GMO feed, because they believe this is the way to more richness, more whiteness, more penis power. A friend of mine who's black, white, and native didn't vote because blacks and natives have been fucked by the system for centuries, no matter the administration. Before the election, I said, "What if you don't vote and Trump wins?" She said, "I want white people to be affected. I want white people in the streets." When I saw her at the protests after the election, I said, "Well, you got what you wanted. White people in the streets." She said, "That was really rude." I said, "Look what happens when liberals don't vote and we get a fascist fuck as president." She said, "Now you'll get how people of color feel all the time." I said, "It will be worse for you too." She said, "Racists have always been here. Now the truth is unmasked." I said, "The white supremacists are emboldened. They have permission from the highest office in the world." Another dear friend, a black woman old enough to have sat at lunch counters during Jim Crow, saw our conflict, jumped in, said to my friend, "You didn't vote? You're a black woman. What the fuck are you doing? You don't care about our children." Said to me, "Our people died for the right to vote. Black people got the right to vote in 1965. Does she even know that?" A sea of white faces encircled us, said, "Please stop fighting. We're all on the same side here." Both my friends left in tears in opposite directions. The radical, disenfranchised woman of color, the voting rights activist. Later, one would tell me she was devastated by what happened there. The other would say that no one had her back. The white liberals feared her anger as a black woman, shut her down. As for me, I felt vindicated in that moment, but not in a way that felt good. I couldn't process it then because the protests began to channel the crowd's rage, and hundreds of us took over the streets of downtown Santa Fe without a permit, drumming, shouting, marching right through the makeshift barricades of cop cars that screeched into each intersection, blasting their sirens. We walked right past them with hands over ears, past the cop who was showing off his assault rifle. My ex, different one. A few. led the charge, got pursued by cops. An artist I know, stuck in the traffic jam, stood on the hood of their car and flashed her breasts with the joyful power of nakedness. The cops detained the artist, handcuffed them, called their flashing indecent. My ex came to their defense, got handcuffed too. With my phone, I videotaped the cops manhandling my ex, taking her away. I made up with my friend a few weeks later. Those things are still a bit fragile between us. Thought a lot about her words. We whiteys do need to be in the streets. Have needed to for a while. May we find the stamina to stay out there and meet whatever is coming, because I don't think we can return to the way it was. Let's not return, you guys. When I woke up on the hard floor this morning, the day the Senate will try to confirm a KKK sympathizer for Attorney General, I saw through the window the rope still hanging from my porch beam. I felt a sense of mourning for the loss of my old life. In retrospect, so entitled and comfortable. And I also felt electrified. Things are different now, unmasked. All the skin ripped off to show the blood and viscera underneath, all the paper mache torn to let out the newspaper guts and candy. I feel a new imperative and sense of purpose. No time to waste on trivial things. Must make more art. Must fight for the animals and each other. Must protect each other more. Love each other more. Teach ourselves how to live within this shared hallucination. Learn how to remake our new world.
Yeah.
A Little to the Left. Written and directed by Zhenzan Dao, and featuring Nikesha Breeze and Zhenzan Dao, is a dialogue between endless atrocity and indomitable intimacy. I love that. I can't wait to see what that means. Nikesha Breeze is a queer, intersex, interdisciplinary artist. This is their amazing work on this wall, and those beings will be part of a solo show that they'll have in Taos in May. Zhenzan Dao is an intersex transgender Taoist monk. They are the founder of the practice tradition of Moga Dao and the director of Sakra Immanence Theater. Okay, please welcome Nikesha and Zhenzan.
A little to the left. Harder. Slower. Hold me there. Hold me. A little to the left.
Harder.
Slower.
Hold me there.
Hold me. A little to the left. Slower. Hold me there. Hold me. A little to the left. Harder. Slower, slower.
Hold me there. Hold me. A little to the left. Harder. Slower. Hold me there. Hold me.
That was so beautiful, you two. Wow. Thank you, Lakeisha and Jemzon, and to our musicians. And tell me your names.
Sunny and Corwin.
Sunny and Corwin. Thank you. Thank you. Okay, so the night is not quite over, but we'll be moving outside for the next performance. If you know what that is. Before we do that, I want to thank Freeform Art Space, which is owned by Rita Bard and Walter Thomas. Thank you for their generous hosting of this show and event. They have been so incredibly supportive. Walter designed a beautiful catalog too, which is available for $12. I think there's still a few left. Thank you to my sister Furies for making this show possible. Thanks to our AV pros, Will and Giuseppe, for handling the sound and video test. Thanks to Debbie for handling donations and merch. Thank you to all our performers tonight and to the wonderful artists in this show. And thank you to all of you for coming out and enduring like some possibly not so comfortable sitting on the floor. And come to the Women's March tomorrow at noon at the Roundhouse. And now we're going to take this show outside and reenact election night, my version of election night. Now, many of us don't like violence. I'm a Buddhist, under most circumstances, but I think we can perform cartoon violence on our cartoon president, right? We can perform our rage against a future we didn't consent to. Could be cathartic. So put your pussy hats on and your coats and let's move out.
Spin around first. No, spin here. There
Baba, 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 you, Baba, you,
Baba